For 3 years, we heard it every day, that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were the oldest candidates ever. Republicans made the excuse that Biden was 3 years older, and the media gave it a pass. Their breathless coverage of Biden's age, while ignoring Trump's decline, pretended Trump wasn't slurring his speech.
We want a landslide that's
confusing people,
including Obama. I'll tell you what.
Telling weird, wandering stories.
By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man.
Now, there's no excuse. There's only one person in this race now with mental problems. One person with memory problems. One person feeling the icy hand of death from old age creeping closer. One person who knows the clock is running out. And that's old Donald Trump. Weak, impotent, forgetful, mentally declining, fast. He'd be 83 by the end of his term. If he's senile now, he'll be...
I actually think there's a very simple solution to this DEI garbage that Trump and the rest of his cronies are coming out with regard to Kamala Harris. It isn't too difficult to see what they really mean. I just think every single time they say something, it needs to be fact checked. You need to be, whether it's somebody on Twitter with 10 or whatever it's called, 10 followers or whatever, people need to come down hard on it, because that way, they'll realize that there's more of us than them, that hate is not something we actually do. Just look at this clip, which is now resurfacing. This should be shared. All right. If you've ever doubted or questioned whether Don Shitsy Pantsy, or as he's called now, Don Old, has got xenophobic rooted nastiness in his DNA, here's some evidence.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black. You're not black enough.
The other thing to bear in mind is that Trump and co want people to be agitated. It keeps the story going. They want everyone to say, oh, he said that. Whereas really, perhaps I think Jasmine Crockett, so listen to what she has to say, because that is how, on top of fact check and everything, that is the reaction. Not the reaction they want, the screaming reaction, etc. And she also, something else she does say, and I think it's really important, look at I'll say this, the black faces within the Republican Party. Dr. Ben Carson, he's an embarrassment. Hasn't said anything about Trump's recent BSing. Tim Smith, or Tim Scott, Ryan. Is Tim Scott still getting married? Well, he's disappeared. Who's got it? Where is Tim? Anybody know? Tim Scott is missing. And there's Jasmine Crockett says, Byron Donald Duck. Is that his name? Byron Seriously. Byron Donaldson. Byron Donaldson is probably one of the most self-loathing people you could ever come across. You can guarantee that guy has no mirrors. Even in the car, I can't see myself. I don't like how I look. He's somebody he's convinced he looks totally different to how he is, by the way. Byron, you're a former criminal. Just putting the fact out there, by the way. Just putting the fact out there.
And as someone who is known as being a fighter, I think that they love that she is pushing back, and she's pushing back hard, because for so long people kept trying to say the Democrats were weak. But right now, the only person that looks weak is Trump. He doesn't have an answer for the vice president, and all he wants to do is talk about her behind her back. But as she stated in Atlanta this week, If he's got something to say it to her face. And well, we'll just see if he absolutely decides that he's still going to skip out on that debate, or if he's actually going to, join her on stage.
Yeah.
We just saw the president down in Austin, Texas this week. And what was he doing? He was commemorating the work of a great Texan, LBJ. And so we want to move this country forward. And that's the option that you get with a Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Or you can go back to the 1960s where they've got the likes of Byron Donalds glorifying the Jim Crow era as he's married to a white woman that he wouldn't have been allowed to get married to.
Something else which does add to the conversation as well is what they call the level of news insecurity. The conservative news network, for example, this week, CNN, they've got rid of all of their opinions. I know that sounds funny, but on their website, they're not literally hearing opinions anymore because their whole thing is it's got to be clickbait. That's how they're doing their news programs now. They don't want anything which looks into details, which looks facts. They just want confrontation. So they're loving all of this DEI stuff because that for them is they can get a talking head on from the Republican Party who will say something really ridiculous, and then they'll get somebody in from Kamala's setup to defend it, and that's what they want. They just want the clash, okay? Whereas in a real world, but listen to what the union guy has to say about Kamala. All right, this is what needs to happen. All right, we've got to concentrate on the facts and ignore the minutiae, ignore the garbage that Fox and CNN are desperate. All right. They are this is like laxative for them after a constipated while of nobody being interested. Now CNN and Fox could win a gold medal in shitting out BS. This is the real stuff here about Kamala.
2019, GM was on strike for 40 days. Donald Trump was nowhere to be found. Didn't say nothing, do nothing. Now let's look at Kamala Harris. 2019, you want to know where she was when GM was on strike for 40 days? She was on the picket line, standing there with them. She stood with workers on strike. You look at 2023 in our sit-down strike last year, our stand-up strike, and you look at what was going on with Lordstown workers under Trump got left behind. Their plant got closed in Ohio. Workers were scattered all over the country to GM plants. Under Biden and Harris and their administration, they went to work with us in bargaining to save a community in Belvidere, Illinois. Contrary to what Trump says, through the IRA, the Biden-Harris administration created billions of dollars to encourage companies to locate battery work in the USA and to partner with unions in doing that. So they would be good paying jobs, standard setting jobs. You go back now in Lordstown, Ohio, where Trump left people behind and they were dispersed all over the country. Under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, workers are now transferring back to Lordstown because they can get a job at the Altium battery plant there. They're bringing people home that Trump left behind. And on top of that, like I said, Belvidere, Illinois, same story. That plant was left for dead. The Biden administration, Kamala Harris went to work with us to find out what they could do. They got billions of dollars put in play to help save that community. There's product going there. There's a battery plant going there. And so it's a tale of two stories here. Donald Trump represents the billionaire class and the corporate class. And Kamala Harris has a history and a track record of standing up with working class people. So it makes the decision pretty easy for us.
If you have any level of social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or anything, I'd just love you to share this clip for the simple reason what you're about to see to me sums up everything that's wrong with a lot of people who are politicians. JD Vance illustrating perfectly, who just do not live in the real world, who use language that clearly shows they're not thinking about what they're talking about, that is insulting, derogative, and just wrong, to keep it simple. Listen to what JD Vance says with regards someone who may have been the result of incest or rape. Just listen to what he says and the word he uses. You can't, you tell me, comment section, please.
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape? Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.